everybody, and welcome to the PC Gamer Show. My name is Tom Marks, assistant editor here at PC Gamer. We've got a great show for you today. We're here with Cory Jones, who is the co-founder, president, CEO of Cryptozoic Entertainment. Welcome. How you doing?
I'm actually not the CEO of Cryptozoic.
Oh, you're not?
I'm
Excuse
the CEO
me.
and president of Hex Entertainment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm 100% focused on Hex.
I was really nervous that I was going to get your title wrong because I found like 4 different titles for you.
Yeah.
And you're an important guy. That's what we need to know. And you're here.
I'm very transient.
Yeah. And you're here to talk about Hex, Shards of Fate.
Correct.
Which we will get to later. A very fun digital card game that is coming out rather soon-ish, hopefully. We're also here with James Davenport, our associate editor. James, how you doing?
Better.
Better.
Sick over the weekend, so I'm a little froggy. You can hear it probably.
No, it's just you got that.
I have the Tyler Wilde voice right now.
Yeah, you do.
That's
Nice. It's nice.
Yeah, but I'll be all right, I think.
We're coming here from a lovely rainy Tuesday in San Francisco, where James and I, when we both walked into the office this morning, were drenched head to toe, wet. Even
My
though
shirt is still wet.
Yeah. We'll be wringing it out as we go. But we've also got a lot of great games to talk about today. We're going to be talking about who is the ESPN of esports, because ESPN wants to be the ESPN of esports now. We'll also be talking about... Yeah, I know. How dare they? We'll also be talking about the phenomenon of Twitch plays and playing games through Twitch chat. Then we'll be talking about the rise of digital card games and kind of their recent popularity. And then finally, we'll have a Hex Shards of Fate demo with Cory before we take your questions from Twitch chat. But first, what have you been playing lately, James?
Well, considering my sickness kind of stuck me in my room all weekend, I made a point of playing video games.
Really?
Yeah.
Like you do.
Yeah. And the biggest thing on the list was Oxenfree, and it came out last Friday. It's they call it a walking and talking game, but you might be more familiar with like throwing it into an adventure game genre. But it's from Night School, which has ex-Telltale, ex-Disney people. And it's a story, a coming-of-age, like, teen story, where teens go to an island in the Pacific Northwest, and they want to party. It's their senior year. Everyone's kind of, like, in between, their lives in high school and, what is next for them. So it's kind of this, nostalgic setup, and then from there, things go wrong. It kind of has this supernatural premise. The island has a history that unfolds in a cool, creepy, subtle way. And most of what you do is just move your character through these like beautiful painting-like. I can't like overstate how beautiful it is. These scenes, and it has this dialogue system mapped to controller buttons. I don't know. I played it with a controller. I don't know how it works on the keyboard, but basically the dialogue system works in that it's happening live, and it branches out uniquely, but you can interrupt people and you can miss your opportunity to speak at almost any time. You're walking and talking, and it's kind of like a Telltale game, but quicker. You can like everything you do can interrupt people. You can just ignore them, and it has these branching decisions. It's pretty neat. I will say that it kind of drove me crazy when, and this drives me crazy in all fiction, is like when something traumatic and terrifying happens to these teens, they're just like, instead of like sobbing uncontrollably like I would, they are just like, whoa, that was weird. Let's keep exploring. And it kind of rides a wavering line between like campy and serious that it doesn't quite nail all the time for me, but I'd still recommend it to everybody.
This is the game that has the virginity meter in it, right? That whole system. With
yeah, the virginity meter, virginity points. You can choose which, if you want to be evil or good in your virginity aspects. It's
maybe I'm thinking of a different game.
I don't know. Is that Mass Effect where you...
The virginity meter?
Yeah, virginity. So it's a cool game. I recommend it. I also, I'm just going to run through the list here, played a bunch of Dark Souls because, hell yeah, I never don't play that. And I finished up The Witcher 3 Hearts of Stone expansion, which is it's a cool, like occultish, side story for The Witcher, and it takes him on like these kind of funny adventures in some ways, and then some really serious and creepy, surreal adventures, and wraps up with this. I don't want to say it's a boss fight, but this scenario that I think is probably one of the more interesting things I've seen done in an RPG like that, because it depends, like The Witcher does in its main campaign, it depends a lot more on wit than it does on just like killing the bad guy. And I think there's several different endings. I got the good one, I think, but you can seriously mess up and can't do anything about it. So it's pretty cool, and it just got me really, really jacked for what's the next one, Wine and Blood or Blood and Wine or something like that, coming out this year, where there's going to be a whole new like area to explore, and it's going to wrap up Geralt's story, I guess.
Wow.
And they put in the virginity meter. For
yeah, that's the one. That's it. Yeah.
It's going to be one of those things that all games just start picking up.
Unless somebody's pushing that agenda, I don't think it's really going to take off. But,
you don't got to worry about virginity in The
I've been
Witcher.
working.
That guy, he gets it. He takes care of himself.
Jumping back real quick to Oxenfree, Twitch user Shu Kadaj mentions that every interaction you do affects your game, but there are apparently 3 interactions in it that affect someone else's game within it. Have you seen that?
Someone else's game? What does that mean exactly?
I don't know. I was hoping you knew. You got to play more to find out.
Yeah, I finished it once. I kind of want to dive in and see what, there are some choices you can make that obviously will influence the story and ending you get. But overall, I didn't think the story was that great, so I didn't really feel compelled to go back in. It's just like, more so it feels, it's an aesthetic experience for me. Like, it's gorgeous, and the music, maybe this will hit some people, but like, it sounds like Boards of Canada. It's this like analog digital fuzz radio atmospheric soundtrack that it's just amazing. It's just amazing. So anyway.
Well, Cory, what have you been playing? And I as I usually say to developers, I imagine you've been playing Hex.
yeah, I play a lot of Hex. Like a borderline addiction, like a put together an intervention style addiction. Like, I play constantly. I don't get any work done. It's terrible. This is a cry for help.
Isn't
actually.
it playing at work though? Doesn't that count?
Sort of.
I guess.
At a certain point, once you hit
I guess
hour
if you're
12,
the guy who harvests, heroin, I guess it's okay to do a bunch of heroin. I don't know, but I played way too much Hex. It's ridiculous, and it's incredibly fun. We have a thing called Draft. I don't know if you're familiar with drafting in TCGs. It's this really fun way to play against other people. So a Gauntlet, which is our asynchronous sealed mode, and Draft, I play just an absolute ridiculous amount of. And I love it. I never get sick of it. It's crazy.
Well,
outside of that, so what else am I playing, I guess, is the real question. I mean, clearly I'm playing Hex, but I'm also playing, my favorite TV show in the world is Rick and Morty. And so they just came out with a little Rick and Morty iOS game called Pocket Morty. It's sort of like a Pokemon where you collect Mortys. And so I've been playing that.
I am so glad you brought that up, because as PC gamer, we've never really been able to mention that game, but that game is so cool.
You're like actually not allowed, like someone comes in here.
Yeah, we're going to get shut down soon. Yeah. They're just going to turn the lights off.
It better come
Those
to
sons
PC.
of bitches. They mentioned an iOS game. Shut them off.
Let's just assume it's going to be on PC, because it better be. What do you do? Is it like actually full-fledged Pokemon?
Yes.
It's pretty close.
You walk around, you find wild Mortys, and you beat them up enough until you can tame them. You go fight other Ricks and other guys who are collecting Mortys, and then you can combine your Mortys into more powerful Mortys.
Okay.
It is like a simplified version, though, because there's not like types, right? It's each Morty has a rock, paper, or scissor, and which when you think about Pokemon, that's not really any different than fire, water, grass, right? It's just more complex in all the types in Pokemon.
Right.
Yeah, I am hoping that it comes to PC also, because it's Adult Swim Games. Adult Swim Games makes tons of PC games, and I'd imagine they will bring it at some point.
Sure. It's a ton of fun, and really what it does though, it reminds me of Rick and Morty, which I love so much, and I've watched every episode 20 times. So it's something else to do in there.
Justin Roiland is apparently working on some VR stuff.
Yeah.
You can, if you want to dive into the archives, Tyler
we're actually. I'm actually a little like I know Justin, and we're making a couple of different board games based on Rick and Morty. I don't know if we've actually even announced that yet, so maybe it's the first time we're hearing. But
exclusive.
we're making a couple different. Because I love, I remember the first seeing the program sort of early on and thinking this is amazing, and immediately going to my partners and saying, wow, we've got to do something with Rick and Morty. It's so good. I think it's really going to blow up. Yeah. And so seeing it become popular has been really great, especially since we've been working on a board game for a while now. We have a really cool, one of the first ones has a Mi-6 box with an actual working button on top of it. And it
sold. I'm done. I don't need to hear anything
And it actually
else.
creates a Mi-6. It's the craziest thing. And it does something for you. It's really going to be
That's impressive.
You have to take a lot of acid before you play, but I think it's going to be great. It's
going to be a high MSRP on that, I think.
Acid's really cheap. That's the weird thing. So you actually just lick the box. We built it right into the side of the box. Start licking that box.
Oh, man.
Actually, that didn't sound right either, did it?
Yeah, no. This has been an interesting podcast, I got to say, so far, but...
So we're playing that, and I played some Overwatch. I like that. You can't play now because they turned it off, the sons of bitches. But while it was on, I was playing it, and I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for that coming back as well because I was playing in the beta as well, and it's supposed to not come back until end of January, maybe even early February.
I thought it was later than that.
Is it going to be more open this time? They're going to have.
They're going to add more people.
They're really going to open up.
Yeah,
I was so guarded before.
They're going to add more people.
I want to play. Tom every day is Overwatch. I was like,
it's fun. I like it because all the different classes allow me to sort of make the game into what I want. Because I love first-person shooters, and I played Counter-Strike. I was a big Counter-Strike player. So I hate the games where I'm shooting someone for 15 minutes, and it's like, why aren't they fucking dying? It's just ridiculous. I like Counter-Strike where you kill people. And so playing as the cowboy guy, I forget his name, but...
McCree,
McCree. I play as the cowboy guy. Hey, it actually feels a little bit like Counter-Strike. You can, stun them and get your 6 shots off and kill them right then.
Especially during the R8 patch, the very beginning R8 patch for Counter-Strike when you were just one-shotting people anyway.
Oh, yeah, that's... you run around with your deagle or your shoddy, sneak up on people, shoot them. It's the best. I love Counter-Strike.
For the record, we already have one of our subscribers in chat, Dinardo, says, you're funny and can you be a regular? So apparently you're always welcome back on the stream, and it's only been 10 minutes.
I am actually very regular. I'm very happy about that. I eat a lot of bran. And, when you get older like me, you gotta watch it. No, that wasn't funny. I'm sorry. Can we cut that out? That was not.
No, this is live.
Post.
Oh, Jesus.
Moving, so I really am excited because I was mentioning before the show that I actually have things I've been playing really a lot that I'm excited about, and the first one that I'm actually I want to brag about, even though it's totally not something to brag, is I can actually play Elite Dangerous now. So for a year and a half, basically. I played Elite Dangerous a year ago. I did all the tutorials. I got really into it, and then I went into an online world, missed my first Super Cruise jump, got interdicted immediately by somebody and blown up, and did not touch the game again for an entire year because I was so, embarrassed and debilitated by the experience of it. And then this weekend, I got a joystick. Not a throttle, but a joystick, and I started playing the game again, and I tried to teach myself how to play and watch tutorials again, and I actually got into it, and I loved it. It was really fun. Yesterday, I was running around with 2 of my friends in a wing, and we were hunting hunting pirates in an asteroid field, and it was just like a blast. It was just a total blast, and... It's great because I've heard so many good things about Elite. I never doubted that it would be fun. It just seemed so intimidating to me. And I had kind of that same moment that I had when I learned to juggle, where I couldn't juggle at all, and then something clicked and I could juggle. And I had that exact same moment with Elite over the weekend where I was terrible, I was not doing well at all, and then something just clicked and suddenly I could fly a spaceship.
It's funny, the initial experience though, it sounds a lot like my experience in UO. There's games maybe I remember logging into UO for Ultima Online for the first time, and a naked guy running up and screaming poor, and I'm like, is that a greeting? And then immediately I'm dead. And I remember thinking I could log off right now and be angry, but really what the reaction I had was, fuck that guy. I'm going to learn how to do that so I can run up naked and kill people.
So the cycle begins.
Yeah, it made me angry, and I wanted to be that guy killing people. And so the same kind of thing. You jump in, you immediately get smoked. That raises the question as a game design component, games that are really about PvP, about fighting other people, is it good or bad to have people come in and immediately have that power differential give them that negative experience? Like, what is the reaction of that player? Is it, I want to get good because screw that guy? Or is it like, fuck this game and you're uninstalling? That is like a real question that you have to ask.
And it's not just that, actually, in multiplayer games, because you see that as a tool in single-player games a lot, where in an RPG or a big storyline where your character is going to progress over the story, you're put in a fight at the beginning of the thing that you cannot win. You get your butt kicked by the final boss of the game, and then it kind of challenges you to get better and to overcome that and beat them at the end. So I think you're definitely right that there's value in getting your ass handed to you at the beginning of a game.
But you logged off for a year.
But I logged off.
So what does that say? I mean,
the guy's name was like Viva la France in all capitals, and I think I was just embarrassed for my country and my pride, and I was just, I can't do this.
There was an entire suitcase of baggage that came.
Yeah, it was a big blow to my ego, unfortunately. I've also been playing a lot, and I'll be talking about this on PCGamer.com on the site, but I've been playing a lot of Crashlands, which is a game that's coming out on Thursday. Kind of a top-down exploration game similar to Don't Starve in its style, but more RPG-focused, not as much... there's no, like, hunger bar or anything like that. And I've been having a lot of fun with that.
I had a hunger bar earlier. They're delicious.
You're on fire today.
Yeah.
This is amazing. I don't think I can keep up, honestly.
It's embarrassing. It's terrible. You gotta
roll with it.
You'll miss all the things you don't swing at, so I just swing at everything.
But we'll have our full review. I'll be doing our full review of that for this Friday or Thursday, whenever the game comes out. But Crashlands is on. It's going to come out later this week on Steam. It's a fun little game. But let's move right along to our first topic. Let's talk about ESPN and esports and what they have to do with each other. So this is kind of the impetus for this discussion is that last week ESPN declared that they were the ESPN of esports, and that's kind of like poking fun at themselves because, you know, ESL and all these other esports organizations have been like, well, we're going to be the ESPN of esports, and
somebody over there had a good sense of humor. That was funny.
Yeah, and so ESPN has launched their official esports channel. And it's encouraging that they're finally giving it this kind of level of attention that they wanted to, but also it's funny given that like a year ago there was an there was an ESPN commentator who was like, if they make me cover esports, I'll quit on the spot. And,
yeah, but you don't feel like ESPN's thing was like altruistic. Like they looked at the numbers being put up by all these. It's like they were beaten into doing this. So, like I give them very little like kudos for jumping into esports. They're not like leading a charge here. They're following in the wake of people taking. I mean, you've got some people who've taken really big hits to try and make esports happen and failed miserably.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in the industry 20-something years now, and I've seen it tried, and now it's finally working. Those original dudes, they should get the credit, not the people jumping in at the end.
Yeah, no, I totally agree that this is not some benevolent thing that ESPN is doing.
They're a business.
And the question I wanted to ask to you guys is being the ESPN of esports something to aspire to even? It seems like esports never needed ESPN.
No.
And so why is it kind of how much value is it in there that now that this like mainstream media outlet has finally caught up to what everybody else is already understanding?
Everything helps, but I mean, for real, like.
I don't think this is like the final, the keystone, and everyone is like, oh, esports now. They're legit. ESPN, thank you for acknowledging. I don't think I think like 5 years ago, people would have been maybe pining for that kind of acknowledgement, but now I think enough esports fans and players and so on are just like, they don't really seem to care.
We have a community.
Yeah, we're here.
They're here to co-opt a community, not create a community.
Yeah.
And so, but anyone who wants to throw in and help make it bigger, God bless them, and it's great. And before I say too many negative things about ESPN, if they want to sponsor anything we've done, I think it's amazing what they're doing. I love ESPN, but I mean, clearly they're following behind everyone else. And I mean, when League can sell out Staples Center, I mean, it's done. It's a real thing.
I know this is Korea has a different atmosphere about esports already and has for a long time, but they sold out an Olympic soccer stadium in Korea for the World Championships 2 years ago.
Listen,
League of Legends.
I was there. I used to be at Blizzard. So when I was at Blizzard, I was in Korea at the Olympic Stadium when they announced StarCraft 2. And it was incredible. The place was filled to the brim with people. And they would talk about the smallest little feature in the game, like the Protoss can dash. And I mean, literal gasps from the audience. I couldn't believe believe it. And all the hair on my arms was standing on end because the energy,
amazing.
the excitement in the room was incredible. So and I mean, that's where a lot of this stuff sort of started in many ways. But the idea that, esports wasn't going to be a thing, it was ludicrous at its face. It was just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Because the generation that was going to take this seriously was still coming.
And I had a brief discussion actually at Blizzard when I went and saw Overwatch a while back, where we were talking about how Heroes of the Dorm, which was that intercollegiate Heroes of the Storm tournament with a brilliant name. I hope
A very nice name.
I hope whoever named that tournament. Actually, I hope the game was named after the tournament.
That's right.
I hope they thought of the
for a tournament
name.
series. Let's put a game together.
Yeah.
And they thought of that 15 years ago, so that's about right.
Exactly. I was talking about how Heroes of the Dorm was streamed, or was shown, broadcast, I guess is the old-timey term now. Streamed is the new one, but it was broadcast on ESPN2, the finals of Heroes of the Dorm.
Sure.
And there was a part of me that was like, the audience that watches Heroes of the Storm is usually a younger audience, especially for a collegiate tournament. They're people that are used to and have grown up watching esports on streams, on live streams in the computer. And in my case, I don't even own cable. I don't own Dish. I don't have any way to watch ESPN except for streaming online.
Right.
So to a certain extent, I worry about how much esports people market towards a TV community when TV is kind of dwindling. Like, our generation are called cord cutters, right? Like, there's a name for people not using TV. So it's weird that ESPN is seen by some as this landmark thing when it's like, TV is kind of drifting. Like, so why are we pushing so hard to get esports on TV,
Yeah, I think the people who are pushing really hard are, again, part of that last generation of people that don't quite understand where things are going, or, who are their core consumers. And I think it's just that legacy component of it.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to ask you guys is, or talk about, is that with esports, with every discussion of esports, and I usually just say competitive gaming, because if you say esports, there's always that dumb argument about, like, playing League of Legends isn't a sport, and it's just a label. Like, I don't understand why people get caught up on, like, this word sport, right? Like, the fact that, it's a highly skilled, highly competitive game. So why, like, how is that different than football, besides the physicality of it, right? Like, the people that are doing this are the best at what they do. You could not do what they're doing in any of these situations, like, unless you are also a competitive gamer. So it just seems like so many people in the discussion about esports get caught up on semantics and labels and kind of don't see past that and then see, like, wow, there's millions of people watching this.
And that's one of the things I love about esports is this idea that it can be any style of game as well. I mean, clearly, trading card games are what I do and what I'm passionate about. But I mean, I remember, I feel like, Magic actually doesn't get enough credit for creating what is modern competitive gaming. I mean, the first big $1 million pro tour really kicked off this idea that games could have these big cash prizes associated with it. Because before that, you had poker and chess were the only ones running, tournament series and win money. And with Magic sort of announcing that $1 million pro tour, I know for a lot of gamers, myself included, it sort of changed how we felt about playing games. I remember it distinctly being in love with this card game and obsessed with playing this card game, and then all of a sudden hearing this rumor from a friend at a comic book shop, they're going to have a tournament where you could win $1 million. Clearly that wasn't correct, but there was $1 million tournament. And I was like, oh my God, I can actually take this game serious now because I could actually win money. It completely changed the tenor and tone of how I felt about that gaming experience. And I imagine for all of the people playing, whether it's, Dota, League of Legends, all of these games that have great esports support, it changes how you feel about playing the game. And it's, I think, very, very important. And when you look at something like a collectible card game, it creates this idea of secondary market value for the cards because that's your toolbox that you need to be competitive. I mean, it does a lot of really incredible things to change how gaming feels to the player.
And we can talk about this a little later, but, like, also just card games in general, as, like, it's amazing to me. I still remember when Hearthstone started becoming kind of a bigger esport, people were like, there were people I talked to in competitive gaming who were just kind of flabbergasted that it was getting as much of a following as it was. But it seems like a natural fit, like when you're talking about Magic.
Well, just about anything that has a head-to-head or a team v team sort of component can be, something that benefits from esports. I don't think there's a game out there really that couldn't put something together to make it feel, appropriate for esports.
Yeah. So James, how sporty are you? Is my question.
What do you
Are
mean?
you a sportsman? Do you watch lots of sports? I would see if Tyler was here, I know I could talk about baseball, and if Chris was here, baseball. But
I enjoy the games. I don't really. If my family's around, I typically get into sports, but
okay.
So not at all.
I mean, I played all of them growing up, and I loved them, but I appreciate them a lot. But I don't really follow the big tournaments and leagues and.
Well, so that's my question, because I watch baseball with my dad
Right.
too, right? Like that's kind of the setting I do it in. Is if I'm at their house and there's a game on, we'll watch baseball. But like, how much do you think? Do you think it's just like waiting? This is going to sound really, really grim, but like waiting for the generation who doesn't get it to go away before
die.
it becomes
To
like a
die.
like a thing.
No one needs to die for esports to be popular. They're already popular.
I didn't say die. You guys said die. I said
I
go
said
away.
die.
There's room for all of this, right? Like you've already got huge audiences tuning in for esports,
Yeah.
both live and on the online. I feel like, and there's giant. I mean, there's no limit in terms of room for
Yeah.
this sort of thing. It's not one or the other.
Yeah, I was speaking to Day 9 a while back, actually, around a StarCraft 2 tournament, and he said, I said something about esports going mainstream or something like that, and he said, like, no. Esports are the mainstream, and the outlets who don't cover it yet have not caught up.
Right.
And to a certain extent, this whole thing of ESPN finally doing esports and like Twitter doing Twitter gaming, whatever the heck that is, right?
It's so weird.
It just seems like a glorified hashtag to a certain extent,
Yeah.
but like those things seem like you said, are very business driven, but also just seem like okay, like we're here already, like
Yeah.
we don't need you to do it, but it's nice to see it happening at the same time.
The
It's
growth
weird.
is great. I mean, everyone's welcome to the party. When it comes to kudos for who started the party, that's a completely different thing.
Yeah.
But the more people we have watching and playing, the better off it is for everyone. And it seems like it's growing. I mean, I feel like the more people I talk to about, esports in general, I remember, a while ago championing a lot of esports sort of stuff, both at Blizzard or even, when we were, putting out the World of Warcraft trading card game, we talk about what we were going to do in terms of supporting it with tournaments and everything else. And even, 4 or 5 years ago, still getting a lot of pushback on like what was necessary to really get people excited about an esports event. And it feels like that has changed. Like I talk about it now, or the amount of money you need to give, and the excitement you need to generate, and people kind of get it. Whereas
Yeah.
before it was like, really, like why would we put in $1 million for a tournament? Like that's crazy. Like no, you need to understand. People have to rationalize turning what is a gaming experience into a lifestyle experience, because they're going to be a pro player. That's a very big thing, and turning your game into a lifestyle is a huge jump, and it's something that I think can really benefit every game that wants to be that thing. But it comes along with with a commitment, and that commitment is to putting in a lot of money into esports and a lot of effort, and also building your game around the ideas that are necessary to make esports really work.
I feel like every esports tournament nowadays also needs the flashing red and blue lights on either side of the stage, so that the competing teams are clearly indicated. The production values of esports tournaments are hilarious to me, because they're just these, it's a way to jazz up people sitting at a computer,
And also people have seizures sometimes, which is also, very exciting visually. So if you flash those lights, once in a while you'll get a seizure. And that gets everyone excited.
And that's free. That doesn't even mark into the production value.
We cater to a pretty high epileptic crowd, so I think we're going to have
God.
a very exciting finals.
This is the last show, guys. We're going to get shut down after this. Let's move on, though. Let's talk about Twitch Plays. And for those of you who don't know, the cue card here says Twitch Plays X, and basically that means what was started with the Twitch Plays Pokemon phenomenon a while back now. This is the second time we get to mention Pokemon in this stream today. I'm a huge Pokemon geek, so that's like, this is exciting for me. It's a red letter day, yeah. But they for those of you who don't know, Twitch Plays Pokemon was where somebody set up Twitch chat to control a Pokemon game. And they streamed Pokemon like Red or whatever, and people could type in their inputs of what to do, and it would do it on the game. And it evolved from there, and they started doing more and more games. Most recently, there was that game Punch Club, which said it started a Twitch Plays Punch Club game and stream. And if Twitch was able to beat Punch Club before the normal release date of the game, they would release Punch Club early. And they ended up releasing Punch Club about 10 days early because Twitch beat it in something like 8 hours or something like that. And it's this weird thing because you have to wait 20 seconds between every input, but Twitch has beaten Dark Souls. Twitch has beaten, I think they beat Dark Souls 2 as well. They've beaten just an insane number of games through this horrible, horrible input system. Like, I guess, James, what do you think of that? Have you ever participated in a Twitch plays?
I participated in the original Dark Souls Twitch play for about 20 seconds, and then I never did again. Because
so you liked it, clearly.
Well, I think it's really interesting, like games played by crowds of people, and that's an idea. I think like this is the beginning of something potentially really, really, really interesting and cool, and I'm glad it's happening. That said, like watching a freeze frame playthrough of Dark Souls, like that, you vote on a command, wait 10 seconds, see it play out. But it's very, very boring. And maddening and all sorts of stuff. To those who commit themselves, I applaud you. Thank you for carrying us through these interesting experiments. But yeah, no, it's a really cool idea. I just love seeing Twitch used in this way in all sorts of ways. I mean, there's even people have done Twitch plays. They've done like a goldfish plays where like some kind of sensitive light there's a goldfish and it swims on a grid. I think it was playing Street Fighter.
You're talking about an actual goldfish.
Yeah, and the aquarium is like split up into this grid where each part or portion of the fish tank that the goldfish would swim into would trigger a different command. And yeah, it's stupid, but
I want to see a Twitch play with like someone's relationship. Like you're having a fight, and you get on Twitch, and then people all vote for what you say.
Twitch plays the PC Gamer Show.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. How do we know that's not happening right now?
What?
It'd be interesting to do Twitch plays with like a Telltale game where you get to choose you get to choose the like if you're a good guy or a bad guy, if you're being an asshole or not, and how much you get your virginity meter filled and all that sort of stuff.
Nice call. That was good. I like that.
I do this professionally.
I want to say that Telltale actually, I think, hosted a theatrical viewing of one of their episodes. I don't know what it was, but and I think the audience, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, would yell out commands like a participatory thing, but
it's awesome. It's kind of that, right? That is what it is, though. It's the internet version of everyone sitting in a theater yelling at what they want the actors to do, right? Like it's kind of the digital version of that.
Sometimes it's just fun to watch a game be played. I mean, like clearly that's a lot of what Twitch is, watching people play video games, but having a little bit of interactivity is actually pretty fun.
Yeah, and it's just so funny to me because it represents the impossible being done, right? Like it is something that just shouldn't work, but mob mentality and this like hive mind gets everyone going the right way. And there is always those people that press the wrong button intentionally, try to just screw everything up. But the overwhelming majority of a Twitch Plays crowd and a Twitch Plays chat that's controlling the game is working for the greater good. It's these people working to actually beat the game, which is amazing when you have 10,000 people playing the game. I mean, Twitch Plays Pokemon, the original, was up in hundreds of thousands, right? It was big. It was way up there, which is just insane that they were able to complete that game or any game. And now Twitch has actually made a genre within Twitch. Like there's gaming talk shows, there's Hearthstone, there's League of Legends, and then you can click one that's Twitch Plays, and people can set up their own Twitch Plays thing. And just today, we learned that Cobalt, which is Mojang's new game, kind of a 2D side-scrolling like shooter brawler game, like Towerfall style, but not at all like Towerfall, just that sort of brawling. They set up a thing similar where you can bet on AI teams. So they have two AI teams of 4 in this competitive mode. and they've assigned everyone in Twitch chat like $1,000 or 1,000 volts, I think they call them. And then at the beginning of a match, it says the odds of which team for winning, and then you can bet volts on them, and then you can spend those volts in the chat on flares for your name when they show up on the screen, like to make it like pink or like having a smiley face after it and that sort of thing. Or you can spend the volts on like community goals to like unlock new things for the stream.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's this very cool like fan interaction. Of course, at its core, it is marketing, right? Like that the game is coming out later this month, and they want to drum up hype for it. But it's also such a unique way to do that, you know, where you're getting people involved, you're making them feel like they're playing the game before it's come out, and it's very interesting, and that's the same thing that Punch Club was. Punch Club was a hype machine, right? It wanted you to just know what the game was, and it worked because now I know what Punch Club is because they did a Twitch stream of it. But it's a really interesting way to just involve a huge amount of the community with very little kind of input from the developer to a certain extent. Or, on the other hand, if no one plays your Twitch plays and it's just one person in the chat controlling the game 20 seconds at a time, oh man.
It's very sad.
That's crushing.
It is.
It is crushing. So my question is, do you think that, like, what is too complex? What game do you think could never be done with Twitch controls? Because they've obviously proved that a game like Dark Souls can be done if you add things in like pausing. The only thing that could come to mind for me is something like Elite or Star Citizen or Flight Sim, where there's just too many things to do at once. But, like, what do you think is too complex for that?
First-person shooter is also kind of tough.
Yeah, anything competitive, I guess. I mean, I guess they did a Hearthstone one, but that's long turn timers.
Yeah, anything that requires, like, you know, split-second timing to have any success at all is probably going to be...
I would love to see, like, a competitive Counter-Strike match, though, with, like,
Everyone's
competing
doing
channels.
Right.
That'd be pretty funny.
So, like, 10 Twitch plays channels.
Yeah, and they're each controlling a player in a certain match. Hey, oh shit, I gotta leave. I gotta lock this down. Let's go.
You're gonna patent this idea. That's actually an amazing idea.
Someone do that. I don't have the energy. Chat, do it.
Yeah, if anybody is watching and is a coder, then get on it right now. We need a 10v10 Twitch plays Counter-Strike.
Just give me 1 million.
Or 5v5. 10 goldfish.
10 goldfish versus 10.
Maybe the goldfish would be the bot. Like, if one of the streams went down, the goldfish would just take over.
I think so. It would probably be smarter.
Sub that goldfish in, man.
Yeah.
That guy's a killer.
I wonder if you could do that, like, if you took no timers, if the game would even ever end. Like, if you put everybody just, like, you'd have to do everyone in a box, like, in just a square room, no timers, just, like, let it play out. Give everyone max grenades so that, like, stuff just happens. That'd be amazing.
I'm into it.
I'd be really into that, actually. I think that's a brilliant idea, James.
I get $1 million of your 10 that you make, whoever does this.
It's fair.
I'm looking in the chat because I know someone's gonna.
All right, but let's jump ahead to talking about digital card games, because I think you like card games, right, Cory?
I hate them.
No? Oh, okay, never mind.
Oh,
well, then we can move on.
Whoops.
I'm here to announce that I'm canceling all these.
So your Cryptozoic is primarily, until Hex was a physical card game company, or is a physical card game company.
It's board games, card games.
Yeah.
Actually getting into making toys and all kinds of cool stuff. So
Rick and Morty stuff.
Yeah, they did the Ghostbusters Kickstarter was very successful. I have a Ghostbusters miniatures game out. Do trading cards, just actual autographed, signed, you know, little wardrobe pieces, trading cards. Another big thing of what Cryptozoic does. So Cryptozoic is you know, all kinds of physical goods. We've spun off a group that is Hex Entertainment, which is about 50 people now, and Hex Entertainment's focus is, of course, Hex.
Right, and we could theorize all day, me and James, about, you know, why we think digital card games are rising or whatever right now. But since we have you here, why did you guys choose to make a digital card game now?
The initial thing about Hex was that I recognized that there was a real need for a digital card game, and that came from my place as a consumer. So I'm a player first and foremost. I mean, I've been playing card games my entire life. You know, the moment Magic became available, I was playing it, and that was the first, and haven't stopped and played everything and love it. You know, I created the World of Warcraft trading card game, you know, when I was at Upper Deck, and then eventually went to Blizzard. I love trading card games, and the reality was that there was no good way for me to play card games as a 45-year-old guy. And so I had sort of aged out of the hobby, and it's, awkward. When I was younger, when I was in my 20s, I would go to a hobby shop at, 9, 10 o'clock at night and play until 1 or 2 in the morning. No problem. Fun, great, I'm having a great time. That's my favorite thing to do. Once I had a kid and I was married and had a job, 9 o'clock rolls around. Yeah, I got an hour and a half or two, to do something. The kid's in bed, the wife's in bed. I'm not driving to a card shop to play, And so there was no great solution for me to play an online trading card game, one that I was excited about. And so that's where Hex came from. It came from sort of find a need and fill it. That's the first rule of product development. And rather than just, I consider myself a bit of an inventor. I like creating new things. I'm a product development person, and so I like to come up with, clever, new, fun things. I felt like there was a great opportunity to sort of roll an MMO component into a trading card game, and that's really where Hex came from. It was sort of trying to marry these interesting concepts together. Some of the stuff I had done in the World of Warcraft TCG, raids and all that kind of stuff was, things I had concepted, for that game. And the stuff that we're going to have in Hex, but so much more. So that's where Hex came from. It came from my desire to play this game, and,
There you go.
and then eventually found the ability to sort of make it happen.
Well, and that's similar to one of the reasons that I've been really getting into digital card games as a player. Also, is that I used to play a lot of Magic, but it's hard when, friends went off to college and I didn't have that core group of people to play with anymore. And, you could play the online version, but it was like left something to be desired. And it was just.
They have an online version?
Magic?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah. And there was just like, the digital card game for me is great because I mentioned before the stream, and I'm going to tell the story because it's hilarious and embarrassing of me, but like when I was a little kid, I loved card games. I had multiple just boxes full of these cards that, were in their individual decks, every type of card game, and I never had anyone to play with really because like my brother was 4 years older than me, so he was kind of always off doing his things with his cool friends, and I was left at home and with my friends who, although they liked card games, they weren't like into them like I was. And one of the things I would do is I would just go to a card store and I'd buy 2 starter decks every time I wanted to get into a new game, just on the off chance that someone agreed to play with me. Like I could throw them a deck to, the
Sure.
Harry Potter trading card game or like the Star Wars trading card game and all these weird things. And, a lot of them looking back are just terrible card games, right? But like I just was so into that I loved it. And I some of my fondest memories is just playing these card games with like, just buying them and maybe never even playing them. Like I found
Looking at the cards.
Yeah, I just found a sealed deck of the Star Wars trading card game in my room, my childhood room the other week. So like, it was just this obsession. And digital card games are great because they're usually free to play, which you can have your opinions on whether free-to-play is really free-to-play with card games and that sort of thing, but also it lowers the barrier of entry if you say, hey, you should try this game, let's play it together.
Yeah.
I don't have to buy someone a starter deck. And then I can do it online. I can play it with strangers at any time of the day if I need to. Like, it's the card game kind of experience distilled. And although I never really, there's still something you can't beat with playing physical cards in a room with your friends, like that sort of thing is like that's impossible to make digital to a certain degree, but a lot of these games come as close as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And I really love seeing this because it feels like that part of my childhood is like finally catching up to PC gaming to a certain extent.
Yeah, and the great thing is, like Lisa mentioned, yes, it's not the same as playing someone in person, which is an amazing experience. But the upside, actually, is that you can do a lot of things in a digital trading card game that you couldn't do in a physical trading card game. Mm-hmm. And that, for me, is the part where it's like, oh, that's really exciting. Because I play World of Warcraft with my friends, and we're all sitting on, Vent, and we're all talking to each other and having a good time and playing. There's no reason that some of that one-to-one interaction can't be part of playing a digital trading card game. The great thing about digital, though, is unlike physical cards, I can do a lot more with the gameplay dynamics, and that is where it's like it's almost worth it.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things I'm most excited about with all these digital trading card games, and Hex in particular, because we tried to build all of this invention into it, is that it allows you to sort of a new way to play. That's the tagline for Hex Entertainment, new way to play. And that is a big part of everything that we do, is trying to figure out what is new, what is fresh about what we're trying to create.
Yeah, and you do see a lot of that in Hex. It's like cards getting buffed and then being put back in your deck with the buff.
Permanence. The idea of object permanence in Hex is one of the weird little subtle things that people don't realize is actually a really huge design innovation.
Yeah,
and changes how the game's played. Yeah, it's huge. So.
Yeah. And then also, you hear about it all the time with Hearthstone, and the whole reason everyone complains about RNG is because RNG is possible to a level in Hearthstone that it's not in a physical card game.
Right.
The idea of taking 2 random cards from your opponent's deck and putting copies of them into your hand is just
couldn't be done.
That's insane.
Right.
You could never do that in a card.
You couldn't shuffle something in the other person's deck. You got an extra sleeve for me? I want to put a card in your deck.
Exactly.
No, sorry, I'm all out.
It's a lot of things that just like are subtle little cool design spaces that get to be explored. But are you, as a also physical card game maker, are you worried at all about like physical card games kind of getting swept up? Like obviously if you worked on the WoW TCG, Brian Kibler, who is worked on the WoW TCG as well and was he was a Magic Pro and now is also a Hearthstone Pro, and he is one of the higher up Hearthstone pros now, but he also does still compete in Magic. It's not like he's abandoned that community or anything, but he seems to be making his living now through Hearthstone as a digital game. Like, are you worried at all that the digital games are going to kind of shove away the physical games?
Competitive physical TCGs have had year after year of the last 4 years their biggest years ever.
Great.
So they are growing and getting bigger than ever. It's crazy. So no, I'm not really concerned. I'm excited to see TCGs as a category because it's the one that I've been focused on for, like I said, I've been in the industry 20 plus years. It's been my focus the entire time I've been in the industry, has been in some way or another TCGs. So I'm just happy to see them getting bigger and bigger, and I think digital's helping. But I think they're going to get much, much bigger. Trading card games are really fun.
They are.
Like change strategy, all the thinking that goes into it, all the creativity. I mean, for me, and I say it all the time, but the backbone of good game design is creativity. If the player is feeling creative in the experience, whether that's an RTS or a first-person shooter in terms of my loadout and how I play or how I build my base, that's when they're going to be having fun. That's when you're going to feel connected to the game. And with TCGs, creativity is a huge part of it because you build your deck. That's the whole challenge of a TCG. It isn't just about how you play. It's about what cards you include in your deck. And so it's this amazing expression of how strategy meets creativity. And I think that's what really appeals to people in trading card games. And then all of the direct competitive component of, I'm playing you head to head. I mean, this is a very direct competitive, my strategy versus your strategy, your choices. It's very intense. And I think it's going to just get bigger. And when it comes to the physical side, board games, card games, they're on a tear. The last 5 years, they've been going through the roof. And so board games, are having their best year ever this year in terms of sales. And so I think physical games are going up because people want the opportunity to get together as a group and play something. So they'll find those times to make that happen. But, there's lots of times when you can't get a group of friends together to play, and that's when something digital really does fill that need.
See, that's amazing to me because I feel like so many physical mediums nowadays are on decline. Print is in decline to a large extent and has been for a number of years. So it's incredible to me to hear that board games and card games are actually the opposite. I guess that maybe is just indicative of just gaming in general is getting more. I hate to use the word accepted because I don't think it's like people are picketing games anymore.
No, but they're getting bigger. I mean, people my age and younger, 40-ish and younger, all grew up playing games. And so as that moves forward, everyone plays games. Everyone.
Yeah.
And so I think it's only going to get bigger. I think what's the mass consumption of sort of passive media has taken a bit of a hit, and I think it's moved over into interactive. I think people like interacting with their media, playing games. I think when it comes to things that you talked about, passive media, like reading magazines or whatever, I think that has more to do with how information is distributed as opposed to it just being physical or digital.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just easier for me to read on my iPhone or my iPad. But when it comes to games, the whole point is that getting together as a group is the idea.
Yeah.
And people love buying lots of different board games and card games because, hey, I'll have people over once or twice a month and we're going to play something new or play a few different things. So it's more of a cultural sort of experience as opposed to just like, hey, I want digital or I want physical. There's something about having a little party and having people over. I think that's very attractive.
It's also funny to see kind of board games and board games and computer games sharing from each other, where you have games like Space Alert, which is kind of like FTL trying to be turned into a board game,
right.
And then on the other hand, you have something like Tharsis, which is a board game trying to be turned into a video game, and they have the ways that they work and they don't work, and we were talking about that with the card effects as well. Real quickly, Malikari in the chat pointed out that Kibler is working on Soulforge. There's also Infinity Wars. There's Duelist. There's a lot of games coming out right now. And one of the things I wanted to talk about before we move on to the Hex demo is kind of the way you get cards, because every game seems to have a different system. And James, we've talked about this on the show before when we're talking about Hearthstone with Tim, is that now Hearthstone seems like a very intimidating game to get into because they've added so many cards and it takes so long to get kind of the core cards you need that I don't like. The thing that am curious about is like I don't have a problem with that when I play Magic the Gathering. I accept the fact that I don't have the best cards, and I'm probably never going to have the best cards unless I want to really, really put out some money and time into Magic the Gathering. It's just fine with me. But when I have a collection manager in a game that's showing me all of the cards grayed out that I don't have, and how some of those cards are like in the best possible decks, it feels worse. Right. As like a player, it feels like I'm fundamentally not being given something that I should be. Because as a player in other video games, I've been trained to think, okay, this game is I have to work, and this game is just going to give me this stuff, right? And you kind of have this expectation of I'm going to have everything I need in 2 weeks of playing, because in other games you've beaten them in 2 weeks of playing.
Sure.
So like, I guess what's your guys' take on kind of packs and cards and collections like that? In digital card games.
Yeah, I can't speak to anyone else's game, but I can tell you that for sort of the more traditional trading card games, there's a lot of content. You go through every one of our releases, we're going to have 3 launches of boosters every year, and each of those is going to be 270 to 350 in terms of number of cards. You're talking about a lot of cards, and when we talk about all the stuff we're going to give out through PvE, you're talking over 1,000 cards a year. So the idea that you're going to have 4 copies of every card playing for free is probably not the case. But the key is, for more traditional TCGs, is that they do what's called rotation. And so rotation means that some of the older cards rotate out of legal play for the PvP experience, and that keeps it sort of fresh and in a sort of bracket in terms of what is necessary to be playing those top-end competitive decks. Now, the thing about, again, I can't speak to other people's games. I can only speak to Hex. Yeah. For us, the feeling is, and I actually hate the term free-to-play. We've talked about ditching it. Because I've actually built a real free-to-play game, and what people don't know is that most free-to-play games are actually a series of tricks designed to make you spend money, whereas our game is not. And so I'm being lambasted for not having all of these tricks built into the game to make you feel like the free-to-play experience is what you expect. I've given you an actual free-to-play experience. So what that means is that when you play Hex, you're earning lots of the free stuff that we've promised you, whether that's gold or soft currency or PvE cards or the equipment in the game. And you're able to go to our auction house, which is a full-featured auction house that you can sell everything in the game except sleeves for gold or platinum. And so what we have lots of people doing is playing and grinding out gold and equipment and PvE cards and selling them for platinum to go buy packs to go play in draft so they can win more packs. An actual free-to-play experience. So you're actually able to get access to everything through the free-to-play part and turn it into whatever you want through the auction house. And at one point, we were up to almost $1 an hour for playing our game, which is incredible for a free-to-play game. I think it's probably down to like 30 or 40 cents at this point, because as some of the stuff gets churned through and people are buying it, then the demand goes down. But we're really free-to-play in that nothing is really behind a paywall. Nothing. Because you can earn everything you need, including platinum, from using our auction house. And so it's free-to-play in this very real way. And unfortunately, most people look at the free-to-play part of a game and they're saying, okay, you're supposed to give me something now. You're supposed to give me something else right now. I've played for 10 hours. Where's the next thing? And we haven't launched our big PvE push right now, which is what's coming up very shortly. But that's where we start to do some of that, where we have you on sort of this track and you're getting stuff as you go, and you've got lots of those experiences. But before that, we had our Frostring Arena, which allowed you to earn lots of gold and lots of other stuff, and then turn it into whatever you want in the auction house. But it wasn't built around sort of the psychological hooks and tempo of a traditional free-to-play game, and so that sort of confused people. I think a lot of the free-to-play games do a very good job of putting people on that treadmill. I mean, it's a science at this point. But for us, it's something we've had to be sort of careful about because there's a level of integrity for Hex in terms of how we treat cards and our economy. I mean, I've hired 2 separate economists, one that works for me full-time, that help us manage our, gold to platinum and how much you get and what things are worth and what rewards we give you and what are the gold sinks and what are the gold faucets. We're very conscientious of it because it is sort of this backbone of an undercurrent in our game that allows the free-to-play player to actually use the people that are willing to spend money to sort of create a transactional culture. And it's actually working so far. It's pretty amazing.
Well, you've just talked about a lot about Hex, so let's move on to actually taking a look at Hex.
Sure.
So once again,